Okay, hi everyone. My name is Kateri Remis. I am a senior English major at the University of Dallas. I went to Rome in the fall of 2018, and I'll also be leading this student panel. So the student panelists that we have today are Bobby Luke, who's a senior English major and went to Rome in the spring of 2020. And then we have George Lynn, who went to Fall Rome in 2019, and he is a junior politics major. And then we have Trisha Davern, who's a senior English major who went the same year I did in fall of 2018. And then we have John Paul Elfelt, who went the same year, and he's as an English major as well. And then we have Gianna, who's my roommate here, and she went to Rome fall 2019, and she's an education major. So we'll get started, and we're going to start with academics with Bobby Luke.
Sweet. So I guess with academics, you're really not reinventing the wheel when you go to Rome. You're living in a college environment and taking classes and learning how to manage your time. So like undergraduate courses at Irving, the really key thing in Rome is balance. The only difference is that Rome is just much more intense in its day-to-day because of travel, because of campus life, classes around that, and many other things. So here are kind of a few tips about navigating kind of the intensity of the Rome semester. First thing to keep in mind is just be self-aware about how you study and what kind of person you are, whether you're more type A and more susceptible to stress, or type B and a little bit more easygoing. Finding a middle ground where you are not either studying too much or studying too little, or being perfectionistic, or kind of pushing things off to the last minute. To kind of rein yourself in, I would definitely recommend setting kind of clear and concrete goals, especially in academic life while in Rome. And the best way to do this is to plan ahead. In Rome, you have your day-to-day classes, and then like a semester in Irving, you have your bigger projects, test papers, longer readings. So the best thing to do would be to kind of break these things apart into smaller bite-sized pieces that you can take on, day in, day out, while at Due Santi, or when you're on a bus ride, driving next to the Castelli as we see here. It's me with longer hair in the spring. On top of I guess scheduling well and planning ahead, having a calendar or a planner, discuss these ideas and discuss these assignments with your professors and your fellow students, especially in Rome, because what you're learning ties so closely to what you're experiencing. And in those conversations, you really kind of get a much greater depth of understanding and kind of clear expectations about how to approach bigger assignments. So it's really awesome and enriching. I loved talking to you guys. Won't have Dr. Kreider in the spring, but Dr. Kreider among many other the other professors there. Kind of along these lines about setting clear and concrete goals and planning ahead. There's this analogy that a stream that's kind of hemmed in by its banks very closely, like flows a lot faster. And that's kind of Rome in a nutshell. You're really hemmed in. But keep in mind that if you can plan ahead well and meet smaller goals with bigger projects, you'll definitely be hitting your stride. And you can really do well in your studies despite the busy semester. A couple last points. There are, I think, two ways of doing Rome wrongly is kind of disregarding travel because of studies is one way, and then also disregarding your studies because of travel. Those two aspects of Rome really complement each other, and I think it's really important that you take advantage of both to some extent. with that said, you will probably have to make some sacrifices here and there, but it's not all or nothing. It's not I'm going to get an F in this paper um, if I don't go to Portugal for the weekend or something like that, right? So really seek to get that balance, and that's really done just through wise studying throughout the week, and perhaps a little bit of reading on the bus rides, on your weekend trips in Greece and things like that. So take advantage of the friendships, the spiritual life, the travel, and all that. They really harmonize each other and actually complement each other, and make them all more enjoyable. That's kind of all I have to say for academics in Rome. It's really awesome. It's just so cool how your experience and what you're learning really tied together. I was a spring roamer this past spring, so I wanted to speak a little bit about the difficulties of that semester and how our class met those difficulties, because we're living in kind of really uncertain times. So I can't speak to any difficulties you will encounter, but I can just speak from my experience that you're really in good hands at the Rome semester, or at Dewey Santi. Dr. Hatley, the faculty and staff are just absolutely incredible. And there was never a moment during the whole COVID crisis that we felt we were suspended or not taken care of. We really had a good idea that the university really had our back and wanted us to have the Rome experience if we could. So I think to that end, several plans were put forth where we could have possibly stayed in Rome. So it's definitely a priority to get that experience. If the circumstances were different, we probably would have. But it was safer that we left. So know that the university has your back. And know that your fellow students will really kind of come in and make any difficulties you run into all the more enriching. The spring 2021 class, the Royal class, really met the challenge of the semester and did it with a lot of joy and cheerfulness, despite its being kind of a great misfortune. And I think that's true of all UD students. And I think you should probably expect that in your semester as well if you do run into any difficulties. So those are just a few things I wanted to say to that end.
Awesome. Thank you, Bobby. So we're going to move on now to safety with John Paul Elfelt.
Yeah, so I just have a few things to comment on with regards to safety. A lot of this just falls down to common sense. So I don't have anything too crazy insight-wise. Firstly, I think the way we dress is important. We don't want to stand out as tourists, because that makes you much more susceptible to being a target for scammers, of which there are many in all the cities that you go to, at least the major ones. And it might be, I know some people who had watches stolen, right? And they were expensive watches. So it might be nice just to buy a decently cheap one on Amazon or something and wear that during the semester, or just wear your watch on the Rome campus or something like that, just so you don't waste a lot of money. Because that is, it's fairly common. Yeah, secondly, I guess this is very helpful and actually got me out of a lot of trouble, which is making copies of the documents that you have: passport, license, visas, even plane tickets, all things like that. I almost got kicked out of Italy because a cop thought I looked suspicious and then came over to me, wanted to see my papers. I didn't have my wallet, but I accidentally had a copy of my passport in my back pocket for some reason. And thankfully I was able to to stay. Another one would be drinking. There will be plenty of it with all of your friends. And the most amount of safety hazards come about through excessive drinking, and the most amount of dangers to your own health and well-being and your friends as well come from excessive drinking. So that would be very good to be wary of with your friends, with yourself, to kind of take care of people. Make sure that no one is accepting drinks from strangers, and making sure that everyone gets home safely. These are very important things. Another one is to not carry, thousands of dollars in your wallet. And this one might sound silly, but I met several travelers in Ireland who told me after only an hour of knowing me that they had $6,000 under their pillow. So I was sharing a hostel with a bunch of my buddies, and then this guy from Christendom who we had just happened to meet. Didn't know him, didn't plan it, and he told me that, right? So this is clearly a serious risk to your experience in Rome if you're robbed. So I mean that one just seems I guess fairly obvious. Another one which is sort of difficult when you're traveling with a big group is to lock up the Airbnb when you leave for the day. I know someone was robbed when they did not lock their Airbnb, because when you're in a city, you might be like some of your friends might be going to the beach, some of your friends might be going to a museum, some might be staying in, but it's important to, I guess, travel in groups, especially if you're a girl. I think it's good to bring a friend with you and a guy if you can. It just depends on the part of town you're in, the time of day. It's not that you can't explore by yourself. I had some of the best experiences doing that. But if it's late at night and you're a girl or a guy and it's the wrong side of town, absolutely bring a friend. And then another thing would be to periodically check the news. Dr. Hatley will keep you updated about world events, and especially now that a lot of cities are rioting. For example, I had friends that went to Paris 2 years ago when there were riots, and they were fine. They stayed outside of the city, but they weren't able to do a lot of things. So if you pay attention to the news, you'll be able to prevent not being able to see the kinds of things that you wanted to see in that city because there are riots, and you'll also keep yourself safe. This one is not so much safety, but I guess it would be your parents would probably appreciate if you sent them just like your itinerary for the week, where you're going. Hey, Mom, I'll be in Ireland, or I'm going to Germany with some friends. Give them a lot of peace of mind. I know that my parents appreciated that, because I can't imagine how difficult it would be for parents to just send your kid off to Europe and then have no idea where they are for 3 months if you're not keeping in contact with them. And the benefit of that is if you get in trouble, they'll know where you are and they'll be better able to help you. And yeah, I've had 6 siblings who have gone to the Rome semester. One's currently there, and all of us have come home safely, happy, just by using a little common sense. So yeah, I hope you guys all, whoever's listening out there, I hope you all enjoy your semester a lot.
Okay, thank you, John Paul. So we'll go on and talk about campus life with George Lynn.
And the thing about Rome is it's like one of the best opportunities you have to really build strong friendships with people you may not have expected you would become very good friends with. And so with that, what I'm kind of talking about is obviously goes hand in hand with what Bobby was saying, because he hit it right on the head when he said that it's all about balance. And so with that, one of the things that's very difficult in Rome is you're not always going to find time consistently to be alone and kind of just take a breath, because it's very fast paced, and there's so many things going on, and people are always going to be either studying or want to talk about like a class you had or talk about something that happened. And so it's really easy to get distracted, and easy to not recognize and just take a step back and breathe a little. But on the other side of that, it's also really important to be active on the Rome campus. There are so many things that you can do, and so many things that you can instigate to make your life and your classmates' life honestly more fun. and more active. So some of the things that I remember being just like super fun, and I'm really grateful that I did, were the talent show. The talent show became like super fun and really funny. And also some people showed some really impressive talents and skills they had, because everyone made an effort to be part of it. They're like, you can put on, for my year, they put on some sporting events. So like pick up football game or a basketball tournament or a soccer tournament. And then there are other things that are more laid back, like a bonfire at night, or a wine tasting, so you can learn about wine and also get to know your professors better as well as your classmates. And there was one time in my class where a group of students put on a play, one of the plays we were reading in Lit Trad 3. And it was actually really helpful for the exam and for writing the papers, because you got to see it with interaction. So it helped in both ways, by socializing and entertainment is also academic. Also, one of the things on campus is there isn't a ton of food variety. You don't have a ton of options. And right down the block is a grocery store. And if you need to take a break, like I mentioned before, to just relax and have some alone time, you can easily just, walk away and go walk by yourself and get some peanut butter and bread and make some bread, like a sandwich or something. And then every Monday night, there is a Monday night mandatory meeting that you have to go to. And they can be a little dry sometimes, but they're really, really helpful, and they keep you aware of what is going on campus. So if you pay attention in those, you'll be more aware of the opportunities you have in front of you. And then I guess lastly, for myself, that one of the high points in Rome was the Greek Olympics. And really try to like immerse yourself in those activities, and sometimes get out of your comfort zone and be embarrassed, because it's super fun and everyone's there, and it's a very, very enjoyable event that the school puts on for you. So again, I guess really the main thing is like Bobby said, balance your time with between both being social and having fun, and being a good student and academic, and don't let either of them distract you too much from the other. And take advantage of everything that happens, and really try to grow with the people you're with. Because for me, I know that there were a lot of people that I grew with that I didn't know like at all my freshman year going into my Rome semester. So yeah, that's about all I have. So good luck, guys. It's a lot of fun. Stay focused though.
Thanks, George. So next we have the mission trip with Gianna Gallo.
Hi guys. I'm so excited for you all to be going to Rome. I know it's a once in a lifetime opportunity, so I hope you enjoy it to full capacity. So the University of Dallas gives a great opportunity during the 10-day break to go on a mission trip. You can go all 10 days if you want, or if you want, you can just do half of it for 5 days. That's what I did, because I used that other time to travel with friends and stuff. But it's a great alternative to traveling. It really does build, it's like very formative, and it really does build your personal growth, your spiritual life, and you do become closer with the people that go on it with you. So that's awesome, because you never know who you can end up being friends with if you're not close to them already. So yeah, you can, like I said, you can go for 5 days or you can go for all 10 days. And it's a great opportunity just to build those aspects of personal growth and spiritual life and all that. So when I went on the mission trip, we went to Albania, and it's a beautiful country. And we did get to explore the country a little bit. And I know there's different parts of Albania that people get to choose to go to. So I went to a school and helped in the school and playing with the kids, playing volleyball and teaching them English. I know other people went to an orphanage in a different part of Albania, and I heard that was awesome. But yeah, we're hosted by sisters, and the nuns there are just so sweet, and they take great care of you. So I loved just getting close with the nuns and hearing their stories. So yeah, like I said, it's a great opportunity to live with the religious sisters. And if for no other reason than to build this spiritual growth or your personal life, it really is a big money saver. So if you want to go on the mission trip, it's totally free. Your housing is free, your food is free. They just highly recommend you give a donation at the end of it. But it is a great opportunity to save that money if you're running low. So if for no other reason, that's a great way to save. So yeah, I think just having that opportunity is a great time to have kind of a chill, alone time. You'll definitely have more opportunities for journaling and kind of just calming down instead of traveling. But yeah, you get a lot out of it, and it's a great experience. So I highly recommend it. And you'll hear in the spiritual, there's a lot of spiritual growth in Rome, and this just really adds to that. Like, you can go on retreats, and this is just a great way to build that more.
Thank you. Okay, so next we're going, I'm going to speak on traveling. So one of the most important things about traveling in Rome and during the semester is to be flexible. So one of the ways you can do this is to show up to Rome with various different places that you'll want to go. That won't be hard. You'll probably be thinking about it for at least a year before you end up going. But to have those places in mind, and whenever you're trying to think about where you want to go for the weekend, to be looking at all those different places and seeing which end up being the most affordable. So not being super set on which dates you want to travel, that can be helpful with saving money, and you'll still be able to go to all these different places. It just might make those places easier when you have extra money. So then along with that is don't buy flights before planning with friends. This never happened to me, but I did hear about different people who would talk to their friends and say, here, like, we should go to this place. And the friends would be like, oh yeah, that sounds great. This weekend. And then someone will buy a flight, and then another person will back off because they want to go to a different place with a different friend. And then it kind of gets people stuck with going to a place that they bought tickets to and none of their friends are actually going. And that can be pretty hard. And so not doing that and like making sure that you are planning it right alongside. So like what my friends and I did was we would get together, and like the 5 of us would sit down and buy our flights at the same time and double check like everyone has the exact same flight, because that also is an issue and scheduling the wrong flight, especially when you're traveling with friends, is super stressful. So when purchasing flights for tickets, a really good tip is to go on your computer and under File, when you're on a web page browser, you can click Go Incognito. So what this does is this basically just takes away like the cookies on your computer. So oftentimes if you're researching flights for a certain city, if you do it multiple times, your computer will start to pick up on it. And I don't know how it works, but the algorithms in the computer will sense that you're wanting to travel here, and the airlines will jack the prices up. So a couple of times I've gone incognito on the page and have saved like $20. And that doesn't seem like a whole lot, but at the end of the day, when you're kind of strapped for cash as the semester goes on, it can really be nice to have that extra $20. So some good websites for finding flights are Google Flights. That's the one that I use primarily. Student Universe I used mainly at the beginning. They tend to have cheaper flights when you're doing transatlantic travel, but at this rate, you probably already used bought tickets for your transatlantic flight. So, but it's also good to just keep an eye on that because sometimes there are deals. But Google Flights was the most helpful. And then Kiwi and Rome to Rio are also good sites. Honestly, just cross-checking different websites can be super helpful. So then considering trains versus buses, especially when you're traveling just in Italy, that can be the nicest. I know some people who took trains to Switzerland or France, but those tend to be really long trains. And, you know, depending on how cheap it is and if you're willing to just sit on the train and look at the countryside, that can be really nice. But at the same time, it can be tough when you want to see the country that you're traveling to. So I feel like trains tend to be the best bet when you're doing overnight travel, because in that sense, then you're not like wasting the time you could be spending in a specific city, but it is more comfortable than doing a bus trip overnight. I did one bus trip and it was like a 6-hour bus leaving at midnight and getting to Cinque Terre at like 5 a.m. And that was a brutal experience. Sitting in a crammed bus for that long and trying to sleep is just really difficult. And usually trains will have train cars and you can kind of, you just can sleep more comfortably on them. So then when you're trying to figure out where you want to stay in different countries, hostels and Airbnbs are usually the way people go. Hotels tend to be really expensive. Hostels are cheaper. And I would say they're cheaper if you're traveling solo or traveling maybe in a group of 2. But from my own experience, Airbnbs can be really inexpensive. And if you have like 5 people in the Airbnb, it can be really cheap because you're splitting it all different ways. And there have been times where I've stayed in a very comfortable, nice Airbnb for like $15 a night. And usually hostels, when you're traveling with just groups of 2, can be like $50 a night, which is still relatively cheap, but Airbnbs tend to be nicer and cleaner. And so I feel like that's the better route if you're traveling in bigger groups. Hostels can be nice. I've had some bad experiences with them though. And so just, you know, be aware of the pros and cons, and when online, try and find good ratings and make sure your hostels are not gross. So then save money for school trips. I mean, that is super important. When you're there are so many cool things to buy, especially when you go in the fall and you can bring a bunch of gifts home for Christmas presents. But really think about maybe some of the things you want to purchase on your trip. In northern Italy, there are these beautiful leather markets in Florence, and it is so much fun. And it's almost like a good activity is to go and try and barter and get them to drop prices. I got a really nice leather backpack that was originally $160 and I got it for $62. And that was really fun. But with that, it kind of makes you want to spend more money while you're there. So just, you know, keep track of your budgeting. Try and make sure that you save money for the things that you really do care about. So some helpful apps while you're studying abroad and traveling is Google Translate. One of the really nice things about Google Translate is while you have Wi-Fi anywhere, you can pre-download languages. So when you're on the streets and you see a sign, you don't know what it says, but you don't have Wi-Fi to translate it, you can honestly just take a photo and it'll already have the language pre-downloaded. And that is super helpful. And for me, it was almost a safety thing as well, because I have allergies. And so having that and being able to like explain that I have a peanut allergy was super helpful. And then money conversion apps are really helpful as well. And then Venmo and Hostel World and all these places are pretty self-explanatory, but good apps. So they're in at the campus in they have they have a form, so you can fill out where you're traveling, and let the school know where you are. In case of an emergency, it's just nice, not only to have your parents, like John Paul said, but to have the school be able to help you, because they're going to be the most equipped to help in an emergency, being abroad already. Some people enrolled in STEP for local updates, and this goes back to the riots and being safe with that. This app will help tell you when something dangerous is happening, like or a riot or a strike is happening, so that you're aware of your surroundings. And then bring cash. I had some friends who unfortunately had their credit card stolen or their debit card stolen, and it is nice always to have a little extra cash on hand, even if you take out like 100 or 200 euro before you start traveling at the very beginning of the semester, and have that tucked away in case of an emergency. Luckily with Venmo, it's easier and less stressful. If something were like that to happen, you have friends that you can rely on, and you can still pay them when they take cash out for you. So that is my biggest tip. And then one thing that I found really helpful, and this might not be easy for everyone, is having to do with self-service and getting data. A lot of people go through